Welcome back for another OG Show Live. Mr. Randall, how you doing?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Reel Down.
Welcome back to another episode of Bass Fishing for News.
Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to, once again, the Bass Kayak Adventures.
Brother, this is the final cast.
Another segment of Chasing the Tide, your saltwater connection on the Paddlesports.
Welcome back, everyone. Another episode of Feather and Fur. Your host, Brad.
Welcome back to the Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Crystal.
Hey, welcome back to Off the Water.
Happy Susie Q here with Adventures of Outdoor Woman podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Rusty Hook Kayak Fishing Podcast.
We're brought to you by Pelican, built tough for all situations. Go to pelican.com. Eastport Marina on the beautiful shores of Dale Hollow Lake. For all your lodging, kayaking, go to eastport.info. Yak Gadget. For all your fine kayak fishing accessory needs, go to yakgadget.com. What's going on? Facebook Live, YouTube, Jay Randall, podcast listeners. How are we?
We're good. I speak for all of us.
What is it with everybody being odd lately on podcasts? One word answers.
It's the whole public thing, I think, the whole live thing. It's funny too, because it's like, that just happened and that's forever.
Well, I did a show on New Canoe last night with Brad Hurlboss and Dave Palmer from Punisher Waterfowl, and like they both like one word answers to start off just to throw me off, and I was like, really? Come on, you guys both do podcasts.
Is that a challenge?
Yeah. Well, Dave's Canadian, so I was like, and Brad's a huge fan of Letterkenny, so they had a competition who could throw in the most Letterkenny references during the show.
God.
So it was kind of fun.
To be fair.
Yeah. So we had a good time, man. It was good stuff. But yeah, man, excited about tonight's show. We got Josiah Pleasant in the house. We've had him on, I don't know what, 2-3 times before, right?
Yeah, probably too many.
He's laughing down there in the green.
He's our friend above the 48.
Yeah, for sure.
48.
For sure. He's coming at us live from Alaska. He just made a recent move. He's living in Kodiak now. So interested to hear about that. I told him when you left before we started, I made a comment to him. I'm like, what, the bears down there in Juneau weren't big enough? You had to go for the bigger ones. And he's like, yeah, 9 foot wasn't good enough. We had to get those 10.5 11s,
Yeah, like, nothing like a bear that can eat you.
Yeah. Well, he's got a story. He was telling me a story. We'll let him share it, but let's get him in here. Mr. Josiah Pleasant. How you doing, sir?
Hey, guys. Good to be here.
It's good to see you, brother. Good to see you. I know you got a little more facial hair than last time. You said 'tis the season. I'm sure things are starting to cool down up in the great north and the last frontier, But we're interested to hear, man. I'm always fascinated to talk to you about what you got going on and life in Alaska. And you sent us a bunch of photos, and I was just like, yeah, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Your life's cooler than ours.
It's a fun life, man.
I was like, all those pictures, I was like, I don't usually feel that lazy. But now I feel lazy.
Well, my back hurts putting those photos together, so there's that.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
it's
you might want to put those fingers in a sling or something.
I'm sure getting to those places isn't easy. I'll pop this one up here. Just a beautiful sunset photo, and up looked like on peak overlooking the ocean there.
Yep. Yeah, it's a very top of a mountain range on central Kodiak. I don't think there's been many people on top of those mountains, and there's good reason for it.
Yeah, I'm sure I have a heart attack a quarter of the way up. Not even a half, quarter for sure.
What's the elevation of those mountains?
It's not the elevation that's the tricky thing. Kodiak is the largest mountain on Kodiak, and Kodiak tops out, I think, right at 4,600. Of course, every mountain on Kodiak is coming straight from sea level, so you earn every foot of what the elevation is. But the tricky thing is the brush. For the first 3/4 of the way, the brush is like this right in front of your face. And it's not soft brush. It's two culprits, Devil's Club and salmon berries. Salmon berries, super thorny. Devil's Club earns its freaking name. Oh my goodness. Leaves these thorns that go about a 1/4 inch into your skin. You won't be able to see my hands, but I'm still getting these dang Devil's Club thorns coming out of my hands weeks later. So it's rough, but yeah, it's demoralizing. You put in 3 miles in that stuff and you're literally just bushwhacking the whole way. But when you finally get to the top, oh man, it's so satisfying. You're like, okay, it was worth it. Then you have to pack down if you're successful, and then you're packing down through all that stuff, and you wonder, what was it worth it? But then a week goes by and you're like, yeah, heck yeah, it's worth it again.
I was gonna say, should I just stay up here? I thought
I would say after this last pack out, I was like, I think I'm traumatized, like, to even look at brush. When I'm in the Alpine, I'm fine. When I'm walking through a river, I'm fine. But the brush is tough. And the problem with the brush isn't just the brush. It's you can't see anything, and bears are sleeping in it. So you're walking through and you have no viz.
I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna be like, man, aren't you scared of running up on?
Well,
I'm sure you're prepared, but
yeah, and I remember that story you shared with us. One, I think it was like the first show. You were walking back to camp or something, and came face to face with a brown bear, and I don't know, dude. That I would have screamed like a little girl and probably had to change my shorts 4 times over. But yeah. And no, I don't think I could handle it.
You just got to raise your arms, Brian. Just look bigger than it. That's all. And don't.
That's the thing. I'm big, and those bears are bigger. You know what I mean?
just don't look like prey. That's all you got to do.
Don't look like prey.
It's tough though, because I mean they eat moose, and a big bull moose is 1,500 pounds. So how do you not look like prey to these guys?
Yeah, that's huge. So
that's why you bring a big 44 on in there. Boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
Hopefully it runs away.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Well, I remember my uncle has told me stories because he was stationed in Alaska for a bit. And we're talking, Jesus, probably 60 years ago, 50 years ago. But he's like, we complain about hitting deer with our cars. Imagine hitting a moose that's 1,500 pounds. And, you want to talk about damage.
That's a new vehicle right there.
Yeah. Yeah. If you survive, right? Like that's like hitting a brick wall.
Coming back from a salmon fishing trip with my dad, he hit a moose. I wasn't driving, he was driving. And the entire hood of the Jeep Cherokee that we were driving went under the moose. It was the rib cage that took out the windshield and the top of the Jeep Cherokee. So, I mean, you think about that size. The hood didn't even hit anything. It was the windshield. So we all ducked, and it was a cow moose, and she took a crap when she got hit. So we're all covered in moose crap, but she walked away. She seemed fine, but yeah.
That's a weird side effect.
It gives you an idea of their height, though. Like the hood of a Jeep Cherokee is under the rib cage. So
that's huge, dude. That is a massive animal. Massive. Yeah. That's incredible, dude. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So what made you leave Juneau and head to Kodiak?
Just life is short, first of all. And there's the whole southern half of Kodiak is as wild and pristine as any place on the planet. It's actually the only place in the United States where residents are able to take 2 mountain goats. So just the mountain goat population is super robust. Black-tailed deer population's robust. Everybody knows Kodiak synonymous with Kodiak bears, right? They're basically direct kin to polar bears. So your size is pretty much commensurate to a polar bear. They just happen to be brown. But yeah, I mean, it's a rugged place. So ever since I probably at the point in time where I knew how to read, I read about Kodiak and would love to be up there. So probably a lifelong dream. But at the same time, work opened up some opportunities to be able to step forward on both of our ends. And so from a family standpoint, it made sense and we made the move.
That's huge, man. That's huge. Super cool. And you're living with, is it your wife or girlfriend?
Wife.
Wife. Okay. All right. I couldn't remember. I knew it was one of the two, right?
Yeah. Yep. There's the bear that tore my cooler up.
Yeah. So share with everybody what that was about, because you told me before we started, but you were talking about coolers and yeah, unfortunately that guy shredded yours, you said, right?
Yeah, so I'm bear aware, I'm bear smart. I don't make mistakes often because I've learned this lifestyle. I've learned the rhythms of how nature works, but we were moving pretty quick and you've got to deal with the tide swings. You can see the boat anchored there. And so, I love having an all welded boat. So you can, at low tide, let the boat sit on sand, and that's okay. It doesn't hurt it when it's a good welded boat.
Sure.
But what I generally do, if I can, is either use a kayak or just wade her up to be able to get to the boat at high tide. And we were moving pretty quick to hit our timelines. And so I used these 162-liter coolers because you can actually fit, your deer and your goats in the 162-liter coolers. And always bleach them out if there's ever been game in them. But I'll use it to chuck waders and wader boots in because it's not advisable to climb a mountain in waders and wader boots. You want to switch to your hunting gear and your hunting boots. And so I got this buck, and I sent you guys a photo of it. I mean, he's a dandy, just a sweet buck. But just getting up to him takes a day and a half. And then coming down, it's even worse, right? Because these bigger bucks, you're talking right at 150 pounds of meat.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's brutal, the pack out, because you're fighting all the brush and you're loaded down. But I always glass from the mountaintops looking back at the boat, just checking on it. And the cooler looked kind of funky. I'm like, what is going on with the cooler? And got down there, and this stupid bear had shredded the cooler and had a couple of dry bags strewn out, rain gear strewn out. But, I guess he thought there might have been something. But then I watched this bear fish the next couple of days, and he's a pretty skinny bear. The older boars, they kind of reach the peak of life, and then they're on the downswing, and it's mid-August, and he was skinny. And so I think he was just desperate. But anyhow, if you don't go with a bear-proof cooler, like a truly bear-proof cooler, it's going to get torn up. So I lesson learned, even if there's no food or meat or anything like that, you got to just keep that thing away from any bear access at all, unless it's totally bear proof.
Yeah, that's wild, dude. That is completely wild, because and that was my question. Like, was there game in there previously? And you said you went to the extent of bleaching that thing out, and he still got in and tore it up.
Yeah.
And you said there was just rain gear in there, right?
Yeah.
So was there possibly like scent on that rain gear from like packing an animal out or something, maybe?
Probably not. Not to our nose at all. Not to anything we could do, right? Like I bleach wiped the rain gear. I did everything you're supposed to do. But
that's
it got
crazy,
me.
dude.
Sometimes you get the bear. Sometimes the bear gets you, and he won that day.
Won a fresh 160 quart cooler.
Right.
What kind of cooler was it?
So that was an Igloo, and it's rest in peace, 162-liter Igloo. So
rest in pieces.
Exactly, rest in pieces is correct. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna see if I can try to squeeze some quarters. If I cut them at the knee into the Orion 85, we're gonna try and start using an Orion 85 for everything, because they are certified bear proof. So I'm gonna put those suckers to the test.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the way to do it. You're in the right spot to do it as well, you know?
Yeah.
Insane. Insane, dude. I mean, it's so unique to me that you gotta, I mean, where I'm at here in the Midwest, and Jay used to be in the Midwest, now Tennessee, so he's got a little bit different landscape, but, you know, here you shoot a deer, you drag it out to the truck and throw it in the back of the truck and off you go. And it's like, you know, I was watching some elk hunting videos, guys out in Colorado, Wyoming, things like that. And, you know, it just blows my mind how much work there is after the hunt. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
quartering up that animal, hiking it down a mountain and trying to, you know, get back to camp. It's intense.
Yep. Yeah, I've been really busy with the move and with work, and I got out of shape. And it's the first fall that I've been out of shape in 5 years, and it killed me, man. It was brutal. I pushed myself to the absolute limit. I was waking up at 2 a.m. with like full leg and back cramps, you know, when you get like the whole body's Charlie horse. So yeah, my passion's there, my spirit's there, my will is there, but boy, if you don't ramp up right and get in really good shape before season, it's brutal. So getting in shape with season is one way to do it, but if I can ever avoid that again, I will avoid that and do my pre-work and get in shape.
See, man, I've been thinking about the same thing. Obviously, I don't have the extent of hiking and backpacking that you do, but it's just like, man, like this summer, I kind of let myself go a little bit, and I'm like, you know, hunting season's around the corner. Like, I should go get my fat butt on a treadmill or something right now just to get prepped up, ready to go.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not always the easiest thing to do when you got 8 million things going on. So I can completely relate to that for sure.
Yeah.
Jay just mows his lawn for 2.5 hours.
It's longer than that.
That's a big lawn, man. You got some acreage.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like a ton, but it's 2 acres, but it's on a mountainside. So,
yeah,
you know, it was funny because the other day I was thinking, you know, coming from skateboarding and snowboarding, and, you know, especially snowboarding and going off, you know, 20-foot, you know, huckers, and, you know, and doing 40-foot tables and all this other stuff, going fast. I am like, now in my life, I'm like scared to mow my lawn, you know, because that rider is so tippy on some of the spots. And I get it, you know, it's like you can only do so much of a grade, you know, and there's some moments, dude, where you like whiskey throttle that thing and you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
like, how do I stop this thing? You know, and you're like, here we go, we're just going, you know. So, and my neighbor laughs at me. He's like, because I mean, I've never had a rider. I mean, I've never had to mow something like this, you know. And then he laughs and he's like, well, you picked a heck of a lawn to learn, like how to use a rider lawnmower.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
so you're saying you literally engage your adrenal glands mowing the lawn?
Oh, dude, like we're talking white knuckle, like butts puckering, like it's like, I mean, there is a moment like I didn't even want to mow my lawn. I paid my neighbor to do it because I was so freaked out. Because there's just a couple of moments because he comes over and he's like sitting halfway up the seat. And he's like, yeah, that's all you got to do. And I'm like, no. That's not all I got to do. No. I'm like, that's not even okay.
You know? I remember as a kid having to do that, man, like mowing the dishes and stuff. You'd be hanging half off, you know, just.
Yeah. I had that thing come up like once and I was like freaking out. So no, but I'm getting used to it. But yeah, and I still bring out the push mower, you know, of course it's, you know, power assist, push assist, but it's still a workout, man. I mean, between yesterday and today, it's probably about 4 hours of work.
Burning some calories, bro. You should be good. You should be good come hunting season.
Oh yeah, totally. Yep. That's my training regiment is mowing the lawn. You know.
What's in Alaska right now? Like, what's kind of like temperatures been roughly where you're at?
Well, it's like 50 degrees right now, raining.
Wow. Yeah, I think it hit 78 today. So
that's a nice day.
right
That's
outside
not.
of Chicago. Yeah.
It sounds like the heat waves have been brutal across most of the country this summer. So I've been,
It's
there's trade-offs. Winter's long up here, but the summers are pretty sweet. So
dude, it
Yeah, I'm
sucked
sure,
down
man.
here. It
Yeah.
sucked down here for
yeah,
Jesus. I mean, we were in the 90s for like a week straight. And
yeah.
it's like, down here it's Tennessee, so it's humidity. The humidity is just, you go outside and you breathe and you're just like drenched.
Yeah. Right.
And it's like, I don't know how it is for the skinny dudes, but us bigger guys, I was like, there's a little bit more working. So, that first step to the truck, for the air conditioning, and you're, well, I'm wet. I'm just
Ouch.
drenched.
Dang.
I mean, I was in Florida for ICAST, dude, and I've said this a couple times now, but it's just like you walk outside at like 7 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, going to go to breakfast, and you're just like, you walk outside and instantly like just start sweating. It's just so much moisture in the air, it just instantly hits you, and it's just I'd much rather be dealing with 50 and rain right now.
I can't wait until like fall and winter when everybody else is going to be hiding inside, and my northern blood's going to be like, oh, let's go for it. I'm gonna be out there with like, just like a hoodie. Everyone's gonna be freezing.
Yeah. When's it start? When do you guys start kind of looking at winter? Is it October or end of September?
Well, it depends on elevation, right? And we're all the way. So Kodiak's an island in the middle of the Pacific, so we get more temperate weather than anywhere else in Alaska because we've got the Pacific Ocean kind of mediating temperature. But the first winter storms usually are September, but honestly, the past 2 days we've had one now in the middle of August. I mean, it was howling sideways rain and 12-foot seas, so it's already, we've already had the shift here. We say that the harbinger of season change is the fireweed. When the fireweed changes, it gives kind of a brilliant, it looks like fire, and then it's done and just blows away in the wind. Well, it's blown away. So season has changed. So, but yeah, once you get 1,000 feet of elevation, I mean, even now you'll start to get some snow up high. It changes pretty quick, but yeah. I pay attention to the animals getting furred up, right? So the bears start to get furred up end of August, beginning of September. The goats start to get furred up, and that kind of tells you they're getting ready. Who is it? Sean Bean, winter's coming. So
Yeah. That's intense, man. That's intense. I mean, where you're at, is it? I mean, how do I phrase this? Is it like completely off grid, or do you guys still have like electricity where you're at? Like,
yeah, so home base just outside of city limits, electricity, internet, we're good to go. My day job, I actually work in commercial real estate, developing flex workspaces, and so I do that from regular internet, like everybody, getting to do remote work, which is great. But yeah, I go a bit south for hunting and fishing, and there's nothing. I mean, we're no people. I mean, just completely off the grid. So yeah, Kodiak proper. You can see where it says Kodiak.
yeah,
Women's Bay is where the Coast Guard base is, just south of Kodiak there. And then you've got those big bays that cut in below Women's Bay, and
right.
those are pretty fun places to go.
So, are you in the town of Kodiak then?
Yeah, at the moment I am.
Okay. Right on.
What's the population out there?
So city limits, I think population's right at 6,000 right now. And you've got about 13,000 people that, are residents of Kodiak. And then you've got a flux in the summer and fall. A lot of people coming in for tourism, a lot of folks coming in for fishing and hunting. So, in any given moment in summer and fall, probably pretty fair to say that there might be 25,000 people. But then in winter, it shrinks down to that true number.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the town right there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your guys' power source? Is it nuclear or is it coal?
No, I mean there's some wind turbines, and there is hydro as well. So the wind turbines and hydro, and then there's some backup too. But for the most part. I mean, it's pretty clean.
Bro,
at
you
least
got a
as far as-
Walmart on an
I
island.
do, man. Safeway, Starbucks, Walmart.
I'm moving to Kodiak.
Isn't it kind of is it more expensive to live there than it was in Juneau?
It's comparable. The airfare is more expensive out of Kodiak. I would say it ends up being about a wash, all things considered. Some things are cheaper in Kodiak than they were in Juneau, but I think it comes out to a wash. Basically, I think remote Alaska, you have just a handful of towns where you can like truly work from, right? Like solid Wi-Fi, solid amenities, good international airport. I think they're all pretty expensive, but they're all pretty close to the same. Your cheaper living is probably when you go to the bigger city, but when you go to the bigger city, you lose a lot of the recreation and beauty.
But predominantly, Alaska is definitely more expensive than lower 48.
Oh yeah,
yeah, because you got to get everything trucked and shipped up
in.
there. Yeah, at this point for you, shipped and air.
Exactly. No, I mean you're looking at a 60 to 70% upcharge on everything because to get it here, think of all the fuel and the shipping company that put all that together. So it ain't cheap. Yeah, if you don't live off the land, I mean, I don't see how you could try to justify it. But if living off the land is your passion and you do it well, I'm okay with eating venison and mountain goat and halibut every day. Works for me.
Yeah, that's pretty gnarly, dude. It's interesting too, right? Like, I'm curious too because of inflation being so crazy. Like, and I've watched a ton of stuff on Alaska. Like, I'm absolutely fascinated, and I've told you that numerous times before. Like, what's a gallon of milk at the Safeway by you guys right now?
Neither of us drink milk, so I'm not sure about a gallon of milk. I can tell you that eggs.
Yeah, eggs.
I think it's like freaking $13 for a dozen eggs, something like that.
Dude, you need to raise chickens.
Oh, done. I already have their whole little station set up, building the coop. Like I'm getting starting off as little chicks, so they get acclimated right, and they
there you go.
Build a good relationship with them, and they got to build a relationship with the dogs so that the dogs protect them from critters that would eat them. But no, before 6 months is up, we'll be having our own eggs because we can't afford to pay that. That's crazy.
That's insane. Oh my god.
You got to have your greenhouse. We got a little greenhouse with some kale and lettuce and potatoes and things like that. Because if you're not doing that kind of stuff, you need to be independently wealthy to make that life work.
Are you good at foraging out there?
We're high berry season right now. I mean, I'm eating like a half pound of berries a day. Salmon berries are decent. The huckleberries are out of this world. I mean, you just get yourself a bag of pancake mix or a cake mix and go to town, half berries, half the mix. And it's so good. Yeah. And then it's, that's pretty healthy cake, right? Those are pretty healthy pancakes. If you
I mean, you're just carving up for the next hunt,
Right? Exactly.
It's fascinating to me, dude. It's just I can imagine, but I can't imagine at the same time. Like but like you said, you almost have to, and that's the thing. Like I think I've learned from everything I've seen about Alaska, right? Is a lot of the folks that live there, they live off the land. Like you're talking about berries, hunting animals, catching fish. Like without that, they wouldn't survive. Or, most folks wouldn't survive up there just because, like you said, a dozen eggs, $13, dude. That's insane. It's over $1 an egg.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Well, just living like you should. You know what I mean? We've all gotten used to just eating out of boxes, at least down here. And it's so easy to be like, man, I'm not going to make dinner. I'm just going to go to McDonald's.
Right.
Right. And it's just, I just think of how much healthier he is than us.
His McDonald's is up on a mountainside, He's just got to hike 5 miles to get there and then, quarter up an animal, fight off 14 brown bears and hike 5 miles back down and, hope he survives.
You guys got a pretty healthy wolf population over there too?
No wolves on Kodiak.
No wolves. That's a good
interesting. I could
Yeah.
live there then. I'll fight
Yeah,
the bears.
It's
Yeah.
brown bears and brown bears only, but these brown bears are so different from other places I've lived. I mean, they're aggressive. I don't know that necessarily that they're habituated to people, because the places I've gone are super remote. Like, they're not seeing a lot of people, but that bear, he could care less. He's like, oh, what's this cooler? Just
Yeah.
shredded it to pieces. Whereas I've not had that issue. Admiralty Island off of Juneau has the most dense population of brown bears on the planet. And I had interactions with bears and would have them bluff charge me on a few occasions, but never had them tear anything up, never had them, actually get in my face. And already I can tell these bears, it's a different story. I mean, you got to be careful with these guys.
So what are the laws with that? I mean, like, let's say you get charged. Like, what are you allowed to do ethically?
Best Alaskan practice is, when you're able, is to purchase and carry a brown bear tag. That's what folks do. Like, that's your number one solution, is to carry a tag with you, so that if you end up in a situation where you really have to put one down because it's you or them, that you've got the tag, you're clear, you proceed. I shot my brown bear in a couple years ago, so I'm not eligible for another brown bear for another season or two. So because of that, my recourse is, please go away. I can't do anything, right? Because even though I got a rifle in my hand, I mean, I really can't and don't want to use it. Now, if you're in a situation where you've got to put one down and you don't have a tag, absolutely, if you're defending yourself, you can do that, but you have to show proof. And you got to give up the hide, you got to give up the meat, you got to give up the skull. None of it's yours. And if you're 10 miles in, you got to pack it out, is the rule.
Oh my God.
And so really, I mean, yes, you can defend yourself, but the amount of work that goes into that for something you don't even get. Oh man. So
how can they even do an investigation? Because I'd be like, I'm dropping a pin. It's like, you guys can come look at this area. I'll tell you where I was.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like you said, you got to prove it, right? And that's how do you do that unless you're carrying a GoPro around, which I'm sure most common folks in that area aren't, recording everything they do,
Right.
Yeah. And
I mean, it's a tough deal. I mean, I rule of thumb, if you've got someone in your group that has a tag, you're good, right? You're in the clear, you're safe, and you just hope you never end up in that situation. But I've never personally ended up in that situation, because I truly believe they sense confidence. They know when someone's confident. I think they smell it on you. They smell the pheromones of, what you're doing. And, part of me knowing what I'm doing, well, I've got a high-powered rifle with me too, and that doesn't hurt. And I think they can sense, they sense when I know, okay, try it. I'm right here. But not being able to carry a tag at the moment, it definitely felt a little bit different, crawling through that brush, like, well, shoot, I can't even necessarily, in an easy, straightforward fashion, take one, because when you put in the work on these animals, it's so personal to just give that up and say, here's this hide that I hiked out, 10 miles and then put it on a boat for 20 miles and then drove for 60 miles. Like, that's a lot to give up. So yeah, I hope I never have to cross that bridge.
Well, what's fascinating to me and what I'm curious about, right? Because you're not originally from Alaska, correct?
No,
like
I was born in Colorado.
That's what I thought. You were born in the West, but how did you learn all this stuff? Like, is it just from living up there and having some mentors, just doing consistent research? Like, I mean, how do you figure out how to survive in what they call the last frontier, man? It's the true Wild West.
I think in a lot of things, there's nature and nurture, and there's a percentage of both, right? Like, some people inherently take to certain characteristics of living, and there's skill involved, there's passion involved, even your body, right? Like, being 6'4" with long arms and webbed feet, all right, that's maybe I'm a little bit of an aquatic person, like it fits me. But yeah, the passion from a young age was huge. My dad loved to hunt and fish, and so I got to learn, a bit from him. And then, I kind of took my own path at a pretty early age, just getting out on my own, even if it was just trails in the neighborhood kind of thing, right? Or when I started driving to places and getting out. And, I think the combination of nature and nurture is huge. A lot of that gets ingrained in us when we're really young. We're so impressionable on what we should be or can be or able to be passionate about. And then, in terms of what I read and media and that kind of thing, if you're really into going north, I mean, there's really only one frontier left, and I've seen the world. And I mean, there's places in Alaska that are truly frontier still, and you just really can't say that about a vast percentage of the planet now. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many places that I loved to go to when I was younger in Colorado. And I remember the last couple of trips that I took, I'm like so stoked for my alpine trips to go fly fish for trout and just scout and glass, bighorn sheep and elk, and go up there, and there's freaking caravans of 60 trucks, straight through coming from Texas, and all these RVs and stuff set up. And Colorado's beautiful, but she's pretty populated at this point. So,
Yeah.
I think that kind of steered me, because the idea of, okay, can I live the life that I want to live in the lower 48? I mean, you can, but you're really buying your isolation in the lower 48, right? You're the kind of person that has the wealth that you can buy a ranch, right?
Sure.
So that exists, but I'm not of that financial means. Whereas in Alaska, I mean, yeah, you still have to buy in, and it's expensive, but you don't have to buy a ranch to do it, right? So
Sure.
it's more attainable, but you pay for it in the winters and the hard work and all that. But yeah,
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Alaska has the most public land out of all 50 states, right?
oh yeah, by far
Yeah.
and away.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I thought.
So Anwar, Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, is the size of the state of South Carolina. That's just one of our refuges, just one. So, you drive to South Carolina, and it's not a particularly small state. That's just one of our refuges. And if you look at Anwar on a map, it's just a tiny chunk of northern Alaska.
And I think the ratio is still the same too. That like there's only 15% of Alaska has roads and is populated, and the rest of the 85% is still just wild.
Yeah, basically the folks that really get after it, hunting and fishing, if you're doing anything off of the road system, it's like a category of fishing and hunting. It's like, yeah, it is what it is. It's something you do real quick on a weekend if you don't have time for anything else. The real hunting and fishing, you're getting in a boat or you're getting in a plane, and you're going to places where people don't usually go. And that's what sets Alaska apart. I mean, you're seeing fish and wildlife that really don't see people as much, and it's just a game changer. I mean, we're going out, and the halibut fishing here is so awesome. It's unbelievable. We love halibut.
Yeah, dude.
And most places that I've halibut fished, even closer to cities in Alaska, like they get fished out. You don't come across, really big halibut consistently. And some places that I've found, I mean, there's really big halibut consistently. It's a blast.
Yeah, and like,
Really
are you
big
going out in
like
your
that.
boat just straight out, or I mean, are you driving to a location or taking a puddle jumper or a bush plane or something?
Yeah, I mean, just financially, once you have a boat, what boat stands for, bring on another 1,000. You're kind of
Bust
tied
out
to the
another
boat,
1,000. Yeah.
right? You're tied to it, and so I try to use the boat. But I've done some float plane trips, and that's a blast. It almost feels like cheating, right? Once you do everything on foot and with a boat, when you do the float plane, you like arrive and you're like, oh, this was nice.
Yeah,
You pay for it, but yeah.
that's like
There's some
gigantic.
fish there, man.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And then, like, just for good measure, we got a deer head.
Yeah.
True surf and turf table there, man.
So
it's a 10-foot cleaning table to give you an idea of the size of the table there.
those are some huge slabs of meat, dude.
It is
Yeah.
like right off the road. Just imagine doing that, like up in Illinois.
Yeah, right.
People would be freaking out.
That's insane, dude. So
Yeah.
the amount of meat that's there, right? Just the fish alone, like how long does that last you?
Well, I mean, I try to be generous to friends, family coming over, that kind of thing. So it's not just, two of us eating it. But yeah, I mean, halibut have the largest yield of any fish meat wise. I mean, they're mostly meat. I mean, you're talking 80% plus of the halibut is all meat. So even just the halibut you see there, that I'm holding up, if it's just two people, you could eat on that halibut for 2 months.
Wow.
And you'd be good to go. But
That's a
yeah, it goes a little
giant
bit
fish.
quicker for me because people are coming over and that kind of thing.
How much does that fish weigh that you're holding?
That's a 75-pound halibut.
Jesus, dude.
So that's at the upper end of what we call chickens. So once you start getting above about 75 pounds, then, it's bigger than a chicken halibut, but we call them chickens because the meat's just, oh man, super tender and super nice. And, it's not a big garage door, but, every season so far, and I haven't caught mine yet. I catch them over 100. And that's a different class halibut. When those suckers start coming up, you're like, oh man.
Now you're gonna tell me you catch them on ugly sticks.
I have an ugly stick that I have caught them on, yeah. But no, I like using skates. So you drop a line with a couple of hooks and bait the hook, and that's actually quite a bit of fun too, because you can work on other things while that's soaking. So, but no, I mean a rod and reel or a skate. I mean, halibut are just fun. It's just fun seeing them. I mean, they're sea monsters when you're pulling them up. So
No kidding. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, just monstrous, man. What are you guys using for bait to catch those?
yeah, it's kind of funny, right? So salmon are a sport fish, and they're a blast to fish with. And some of our species of salmon we can use as bait. And and so the best thing to do is to go salmon fishing. And at this point in my life, the salmon that we can use as bait, you catch them and instead, I still fillet them, right? And I'm eating the fillets, but I'm really excited about the salmon because they're halibut bait, and they're pretty good halibut bait. Halibut love squid and octopus, but so far I haven't found any honey holes to pull up squid and octopus. So salmon's the jam for halibut. The halibut will chase the salmon straight up into the estuaries, up the streams. So I mean they're super predatory. So
really,
they key on the salmon big time.
So can they take out a salmon?
Oh man, but I'd say 15% of the time that I pull halibut up, they've got 10-pound salmon in their belly.
Really?
They just don't look like that kind of fish.
Well, they're kind of like a flounder, right? Where they sit on the bottom, flat, right?
Yeah. Body composition, right? Flounders in that same family, but halibut have this expandable jaw that, they're flat, and then the jaw just kind of goes like this. So it's deceptive. And because they're so flat, right? It's also deceptive, right? That 75-pound halibut, he covers up most of my body, but the jaw on that fish, he's swallowing salmon.
So it's like kind of like a largemouth, just like this inhales and.
Well, a largemouth with rows of fangs. I mean, the teeth even on that 70-pound, I still got cuts in my fingers just picking them up and working with them, right? But they've got sharp teeth. I mean, they'll grab onto stuff and not let go.
See, I kind of thought they were more like a sturgeon in the mouth, and that's completely different.
Yeah,
no, they're totally predatory.
I knew they had teeth.
That sounds horrifying.
So all the old school, the older fishermen, like guys in their 70s and 80s, they would long line for halibut, and they all had stories of big halibut taking fishermen out, right? So the fisherman reaches, to start, getting that line up off the long line, and the big halibut grabbing onto fishermen and yanking them in. So yeah, I mean, you can Google Alaskan halibut, taking fishermen, and you'll get a bunch of stories.
Yeah, it turns out Nessie's really a halibut.
right, for sure. They're aggressive too. I mean, they're so aggressive, and they're strong. I mean, if once they get above 100 pounds, if that thing grabbed a hold of you and you're in the water, I at one point in my life I was an elite swimmer, and I don't think I'm out swimming 100-pound halibut. He's taking me down if he wants to.
Plus they're flat, so I mean they're used to staying down. It's kind of like, I don't want to say like a catfish because they're different, but those type of fish are just like flatter and used to staying down, so they're gonna take you. That's crazy though, man.
When they get
can't
going,
imagine.
just think of their body. The whole thing's a tail. The whole thing's just boom. I mean, when you got them on a hook and rod, I mean, oh man, the way that they pull drag when they start going, there's nothing like it. I mean, it just screams. You better have your fingers clear of the reel because they're going crazy.
What pound test are you using line wise to catch those
Yeah,
things?
I mean, most guys, and I'm no exception, you've got to use braided line, and you're looking at 100-pound test. Because if you get on a big one and you busted line, and I've never busted line on a big one, but that would be so heartbreaking because you don't get so many opportunities, right? Those big fish are, there's more of them here in Kodiak, but even still, you never take any opportunity for granted. So you come loaded for bear when you're fishing for halibut.
I almost thought you guys are going to be running like something with like a steel core or something.
Yeah, so on our halibut setups, you have a steel leader that hangs out 2 arms, and then we've got a hook on one side, a hook on the other, and then a weight at the bottom, and usually have either steel or kind of a synthetic, like plastic covering over the braid. Mine has steel, so everything that's near their mouth is steel. You don't want any fishing line near their mouth.
Yeah. That's intense.
Like,
how deep are you typically fishing these things?
Summertime, right? They're starting to chase salmon up the stream, so you can get halibut into 50 feet of water. I mean, 50, 40 feet of water. I showed you guys a photo of one I caught on a 7-weight fly rod a couple of years ago, just to see if it could be done, right? But no, they come in shallow.
Interesting. What about non-summer months? Like, are you still trying to catch them in spring and fall?
You can, but they go deeper.
Yeah.
So summer they're up shallow, and they start. My experience is everything starts turning in October, so you're gonna have a hard time finding them after October in shallow water. And so you just got to think, everything's a trade-off, right? Like pulling a big halibut up from 400 feet, it's brutal. Pulling a big halibut up from 80 feet, it's still brutal, but that's not near as rough.
Bad. Yeah.
And deeper down up here in the North Pacific, we get bad sea lice. And so the sea lice are really, really, really bad deep. I mean, they'll start to literally chew out halibut really fast. So I had a smaller one this past weekend, and the sea lice already started getting around the edge of his fins, and we're just drilling in on him. So, I mean, they're freaking scary. The sea lice are. They're just like, think of like scarab beetles. That's how the sea lice are.
Have you ever thought about eating those things? I've seen videos of people are, they're I don't know, they're foraging them off the beaches, and I don't know. I've watched way too many of those. Yeah.
Boy, that's a special person that wants to eat sea lice.
Or is it like, is it sand lice? Is it the same thing? I can't remember. I think they're sea lice.
I think you're thinking of sand fleas.
Oh my God, that is sand fleas.
Yeah.
Right. That is weird too.
Yeah, they're gross.
It's all weird.
Yeah. I've never heard of someone eating sea lice. I'm like, holy cow, that's a wild individual.
Hey man, if the lights go out, a lot of stuff can happen. a lot of stuff makes it on the plate.
Yeah. I mean, that's foraging off the land there, I guess.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So like during
intense.
I was gonna say, when you're catching halibut, salmon, trout, are you going after cod or anything else? I don't even know if that's around you.
Yeah, lingcod. So lingcod they're a cod species. They're also super aggressive. They got 2 big front fangs.
Yeah.
And they're kind of famous that every odd lingcod, I don't even know what the percentage is, they're blue and the meat's blue.
Yeah, that's right.
Like you probably heard of blue lobster. Like you get it more frequently in lingcod, but they're tasty, super tasty. We actually just had our lingcod opener a few weeks ago. I've not caught one yet this season. I'm not selectively chasing them because our favorite is halibut. And then, Juneau area, we only had one run of sockeye, and it was 65 miles out of town. And I actually never personally got to go chase sockeye there. Here we've got several rivers that have sockeye, and I like to smoke salmon. And a river that I'm actually headed to in a day, they just upped the limit to 10. And so you can make what's called salmon candy. You brine it really, really heavy. And sockeye is really the only species that will hold it. And so it's like a hard smoke. Oh man. I don't have sweets, but I'll make some salmon candy and it's pretty good. So I broke down, I've done, DIY and just make my own smokers, and Traegers have gotten so nice. So I broke down and I got a Traeger. So I've got my regular smokers and a Traeger. So if I get a batch of 10, spread them out across all of them, and I end up eating like a tenth of what I smoke just standing around the smoker testing, right? But
Josiah's going bougie.
Yeah,
I know, man. It's so nice. So the Traeger's sweet if you want to do a whole leg off of deer or off a goat. Oh man, it does such a good job. So yeah, I know, but it's nice.
It's nice, dude. Like, I know a few guys that have it. Like, Brad's got one, and he did that whole back strap last year at deer camp. From a deer.
Yeah,
He did that wrap, whatever, Jay. And
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you get the smoke, you get the grill effect, like you get it all in one shot, which is super, super nice.
Yeah, that was an amazing day. We ate a lot of different kind of animals,
We did.
all in one shot.
Yeah, what was it? Pheasant, deer, and duck or something, right? Or
Yeah,
I forget. Yeah,
it was. There's something else I thought too, but yeah, it was one of. I mean,
that sounds like one of them Duck Dynasty turduckens deals, right?
Yeah.
Like a pig with a goat with a duck with a chicken.
They were all cooked separately, but we did eat them all at the same time.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good.
Yeah.
I miss Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat wild game like that. It's
Yeah.
so healthy for you, super lean, not injected, full of a bunch of garbage. It's like, no wonder you look so good, Josiah.
I'll say this, and this is, it's interesting. And it was dark, and so I didn't take a photo. But this buck that you showed a photo of a few minutes ago, he had a testicle the size of a grapefruit, and I was like, "What in the world is going on here?" It looked like he had an udder, and I'm like, "Did I get a hermaphrodite buck, or what's going on here?" His
he's
antlers
strutting around town like, "What's up?"
He was out looking for love,
Yeah,
He had released the beast.
But apparently there's like the deer that in the wintertime here, the deer eat a lot of kelp, and even though we're far removed from weird stuff that's in the ocean, apparently there's like a high concentration of craziness that the kelp take on in the ocean, and so current bringing stuff from everywhere else in the world. And apparently it's a thing that like these every once in a while folks are reporting like big bucks with grapefruit sized testicles. But yeah, and he had one that was regular, right? And I pulled the regular one. It's the size of an egg, right? A duck egg. And I'm like, okay, that's normal. And I'm like, what is this thing? But I was worried for a second. I'm like, well, did this deer have bad juju in him? Is he safe to eat? It's the first time ever that I questioned that, but I researched it and it's fine. It's just, dude had a lot of testosterone. Let me tell you, he had a lot of testosterone.
It's funny. You're now like on a watch list for looking that stuff up, probably. like Google's like, I don't know what's up with this guy, but he's looking up some weird stuff. Like
there was an article. Hey, there was a scholarly first hit was a scholarly article. No weird stuff, right? To your point, I was like, oh crap, what's going to come up when I look this up? But
that's right.
When I looked it up, it was a scholarly article. Read it and like, yeah, and it was in that area of Kodiak that they were finding him that way too. So yeah.
Right after that, he's on Amazon buying kelp.
There you go. This is a good way to any kelp companies that are listening out there. Here's your marketing tool. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I mean that's why freaking rhinos and tigers are going extinct, right? Is for the same desire that dudes have. So.
And it was just kelp. That's all you needed,
right? Yeah, you heard it here on Paddle and Fin. You don't need to kill a rhino. Don't need to kill a tiger. Just go to the beach.
Leave those animals alone. Head for the ocean. You'll be fine.
That's wild, man. It's jeez. Our planet is so wild that things like that can occur in wildlife, man. It's nuts. It's one of those things where you're just like, I'd be the same way. Is this okay to eat? Like, should I?
I had to look it up. I was like, oh man.
That's nuts. That's nuts. Yeah, you've been doing some crabbing too, right?
Kodiak's a weird deal. So halibut like to eat crab. So
Okay.
you've got a bit of a trade-off with your big flatfish and your crab, but then the other thing is sea otters. Sea otters, they're beautiful, they're cuddly. So when the Russians owned Alaska, I mean, they raped and pillaged the land, and sea otters were on the top of their list. So they cleaned the sea otters out. Well, we've owned Alaska from Russia for a while. I think Putin, I do believe he made a play. Someone in his regime made a play a couple months ago saying, "Yeah, we want Alaska back." And then, the governor of Alaska was like, "We're heavily armed. Go ahead and try it." So it was really weird, really weird deal. But anyhow, the sea otters have made a comeback. They're all over. Halibut like to eat crab, and so there's not many crab close to town, at least where we're at.
Okay.
And messing with big ocean swells. So right southeast Alaska, you've got all these big islands protecting you from big ocean swells. Kodiak, we're out in the middle of it. So big ocean swells, they're right there. So trying to pull crab pots, if it gets snagged on the bottom or something, you get yourself in trouble, right? So I mean, think of deadliest catch. I mean, that's what you're trying to pull. But I see a bunch of snow crab and king crab legs on the beach. So when I'm done doing more fun stuff, I might turn my attention to it. But no, in southeast Alaska, I mean, I got after the crab, but haven't done a whole lot of crabbing since I moved here. And it looks like the guys that are crabbing, they're on big crabbing boats going way out. So,
well, and it's pretty gnarly that passageway between Kodiak and the other islands or the peninsula that comes out from Maine, Alaska, right?
Katmai.
Yeah, that's a pretty gnarly passage right there, right? I know from some of the stuff I've seen, there's been a lot of big boats and shipwrecks like going through there if the wind and the wind waves are way or something like that, right?
Yeah, I had to upgrade to a much bigger boat coming here because it's just not safe in a smaller boat. So, and that's on good days, right? And I've had a couple of times where it was a calm day, it was nice, and we're coming back, and all of a sudden we've got 12-foot seas, and it's gnarly, and it's just howling. It changes so fast. So yeah, it's dangerous. I mean, there's no coincidence that the largest Coast Guard base on the planet is here on Kodiak. It's on the rock, right? So
yeah,
that's a whole nother education you got to take under too.
Yeah,
getting out on the water and I can't even imagine. Oh, I would be, man, I'd be crying, probably externally.
Yeah, I definitely have to. I have to put on my captain's hat and my captain's face when running the boat because it's serious. You can get in trouble, so you got to be careful.
Yeah. I mean, I think the roughest seas I've ever been in is 5-6 feet on Lake Michigan, which that's pretty freaking gnarly because those waves stack right on top of each other, Yeah. But I mean, still, man, it's I don't know. Water is such a powerful beast, and it could take you out so unexpectedly. You just got to be prepared for the worst, is what it seems like. And not only that, but I mean, I'm a big fan of Deadliest Catch. I'm not going to lie. They always talk about the water temperatures up there, right? Like, that's a thing. Hypothermia is serious up there.
Yeah, when I don't bring the kayak, if the boat's ever too deep at high tide to get to, I got to swim for it. And it's always ice cream headache and take your breath away, even on a hot, sunny day. When it's 60 and sunny, you can mentally think like, yeah, I can do this. I'll swim out to it. And I do it. But, it takes all the breath out of you. And that's just it on a calm, sunny day, right? You fall in the winter and everything. Oh,
yeah, because what are the water temps right now? 40 degrees? 40s? Yeah.
Are you dry suiting it out there or no?
When I swim for the boat to bring it in?
It doesn't sound like you do it then.
No, just skivvies, man. Just all right, I'm gonna go get her.
Dude.
For the most part, you hope that timing of your hunting and fishing, you work with the tides and you can just wade her up, or you just bring your kayak and use the kayak back and forth. So whether it's a hard kayak or an inflatable, but sometimes with all the gear and if you're bringing multiple people, you got to sacrifice what you're bringing. So when I sacrifice that kind of stuff, sometimes it means I'm getting wet.
Wow. I am truly lazy. I know that now. Like, It's yeah.
Supposedly the cold water immersion's super good for like your like everything. Like there's this in-off method of just getting in cold water. So I tell myself that whenever I'm doing things like this, like, oh man, I'm improving my vascular health. This is great.
Yep.
But it's painful there for the first few minutes.
Yeah, they talk about that with cold showers and stuff. Like, but so you can like wean your way into that, but you're like full on boom.
Yeah.
What is it, like Norway or Sweden? They cut like big blocks of ice out so you could jump in and then get out, and then you're supposed to get in a hot tub or something, and like it's something for your body. It rejuvenates it or something along those lines, and it's supposed to be really, really good for you. To set what is it, cold shock therapy or something is what I think they refer
that's
to.
That's why a lot of football players, they'll dunk them in, they'll sit in those big ice tubs. Yeah, like, and it's true. Like, I can't speak to it either, but yeah, there's some like real benefits for your body to basically repair itself too. Because it's like, because we're so used to warm showers and warm baths, and like really where it's at is being in the cold.
Yeah, well, I think the first and foremost is just inflammation, right? Any of us that are dealing with inflammation. And so for me, after a big hike, it actually sounds kind of nice sometimes to go get in the cold water just from the inflammation, right? My freaking feet, my ankles, my knees, my hips, my back, my neck. So, yeah.
Jump in that cold water for 5 minutes and that'll help remedy that. Yeah.
So you don't have any like bigger dangerous fish that
So we're out on this trip 2 weeks ago, and we're going to pull our skate, and I thought that there must have been a dolphin screwing around on the side of the boat, and she looks at me and says, "There's a shark." And the shark was freaking, I mean, he was 8 foot, 8.5 foot. This is a salmon shark, and guess what a salmon shark's closest cousin is? Your great whites. And I was just freaking swimming in that water, and I'm like,
and you still do it, like. So now we already know Brian will never do that.
Oh man. But it's I know they're around, but he was getting shallow. I've never seen him shallow ever, but they're chasing salmon, and boat was next to a salmon stream, and we're pulling out and going, and I'm like, oh man. And sure enough, one of the fish that I pulled up, he took a huge wet bite out of that fish. 3-foot radius on the bite mark.
Oh wow.
So yeah, no, salmon sharks are in the water, and they're gnarly. What's the guy's name? British guy who does the river monsters.
Jeremy Wade.
Yeah. He went swimming with salmon sharks and like covered himself in herring and stuff, and they didn't bite him. So apparently we're safe, but it still looks gnarly.
Yeah, no. Anything with teeth and a jaw like that, no. I'm good.
So I was thinking about like killer whales too, like, or something.
Oh, they're all over it. I've never heard of them messing with people. We're too bony and not fatty enough, I think. But
yeah, bro, have you never seen Free Willy, Jay? Come on.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, that's what they teach that in schools with Free Willy.
Right.
That's the
we actually love. There's two cultures of killer whales. There's your salmon eating culture, and those tend to be the killer whales or the orcas that are struggling because salmon runs in a lot of places are struggling. And then you've got your transient orcas, which don't eat fish. They eat marine mammals. Whenever the transient orcas show up, we're all cheering because the marine mammals are hitting the fish, right? So when the orcas come after them, all of a sudden the fishing's, gets a boost. So yeah, when those transient orcas come around, we applaud. They turn the water red, man. They'll clean an area out.
Wow.
All I'm learning from Josiah is that he lives in a very dangerous place and frequently puts himself in the center of those dangerous places.
The same adrenal glands that you're engaging when you mow the lawn, I'm engaging on a daily basis getting my food up here.
I doubt that seriously, but I'm planning on like, okay, if this thing rolls on top of me, what am I doing? Like you might have to run, fight, maybe
call
fight back. I'm not sure.
Save you. Like,
yeah, I know.
Oh,
Yeah.
man,
No,
dude.
it's gnarly, man. There's a lot of stuff here that if you do the wrong thing, it could get you for sure. So it's the real deal. And yeah, I mean, Kodiak stuff is bigger. The fish and the animals in the water are bigger. The bears are bigger. And the seas are bigger. So it's kind of
It's crazy.
it's Alaska's Alaska out here, man.
Yeah.
How many people go missing in Kodiak every year?
I don't know an exact number, but I've talked as I plan trips to go to particular places as a best practice. I'll call Fish and Game and ask them about, how people have done in an area, things to watch out for, that kind of thing. And the last couple places I've gone to, they've made comments. Yeah, someone died out there last year, so heads up, So
Wow.
Just the thing. All we got to worry about really out here is like the occasional black bear and meth heads. That's about it. It's
Oh boy, I don't even think that's close. I mean, as a good rule of thumb, I'm sure you're leaving kind of your travel plans with, a few people in town that know where you're going to be and what your plans are, right?
Yeah, and you gotta for the most part, everybody's in reaching it up as a best practice as well. So you've got your comms on you. You're an SOS button away if stuff really does get crazy.
It's just gonna ask that.
Yeah.
Yep. You carry that one you can text on too? Is that one you can text? Okay. And you probably got the really nice one that's like $500.
They're expensive. Yeah. The Garmin InReach, I got the mini just because doing alpine stuff, I've got to get my weight down. I'm just breaking my back once I've got meat on it. Right. But no, the InReach mini is what we went with fresh this season. And I like it. We tried it out. I had a super, do you guys ever hear of the TV show Alone?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I've had in my brain the past couple of trips, I always have beavers walking out, during hunting season, and I've never taken one. And, waiting until the opener for beavers, for fur bearers, you got to do that. But I've been walking through these dang beaver dams, and they always tick me off because you're walking through 6 inches of water, and then the beaver dams, it's freaking 8 feet deep, and you got to walk all the way around it or try to, pogo stick through it. And I'm like, you dang beavers. And I had this beaver come out, and he was like a freaking 80-pound beaver. And he was really lucky because a buck walked out, I don't know, 10 seconds after I saw him, and I'm like, I'll come back to you. And of course the beaver was gone after I got the buck. But I was thinking after watching that show that'd be pretty dang sweet to get after them. But everybody keeps getting sick when they eat these beavers. Like I was watching Alone, and everybody that ate beaver ended up losing on the show.
Why is that? I mean, they don't eat red meat, right?
They carry giardia, so their beaver ponds are stagnant. So the guys were scraping fat and meat off the hide and eating it a couple days after, and probably not cooking it all the way through. Would be my guess, but yeah. Anyhow, the idea of being able to inreach over, I inreached over. I'm like, man, I just passed up a monster beaver, and we're laughing about it. Like, we would have died anyways. So no worries.
Hilarious.
Yeah,
well, I think I saw it was on the Meat Eater podcast, right? They've been doing this thing, or Meat Eater YouTube channel. They've been doing this thing where they cook up like just oddball animals that you would never think of to eat. Like
pardon my plate.
Yes, and I think they did one with a beaver.
Yeah.
Either that or it was in a Meat Eater hunting episode with Ranella doing it, and they slow cooked that beaver for like, I think it was like 10 hours or something. They said it was just absolutely phenomenal.
I've eaten it. I've never taken one myself, but I've eaten them, and they're really good. Porcupine's real good too. But yeah, in terms of the giardia, they're basically chilling in cesspools most of their life, right? So you want to get that hide off and don't be draping hide over the meat that you're going to eat, that kind of thing. That's probably where the guys messed up on Alone, is that when they're draping it, right, skinning it out, a little bit of fur touched, and I'm sure that fur is just rancid with giardia. So,
and I don't think people really realize like how big beavers can get.
That's what was I was saying. I reached over because I'm like, dude, I just saw an 80-pound beaver. He was a monster. I thought it was a bear cub. I'm like, what the heck? Why is that cub alone?
I've seen one that big in Illinois. In some back area, like off a river.
Yeah.
And I was like looking across. I'm like, what is that thing? Because it's basically around this lake that I would fish all the time. And then I saw it move, and I'm like, what the hell is that? I mean, I got a little closer, and it was huge. I mean, that thing is, it's as high. They sit as high as like a table. They're so giant. I mean, I know like when we're fishing in rivers, every now and then you come across one, but I've never seen one that big. Because they'll of course they'll be beside you and smack their tail and scare the crap out of you. But I've never seen one that big ever since. So I can only imagine. Because out by you, there ain't no pressure, except not for man anyway, not like that.
Right.
Yeah. Wolves will get after them where you've got wolves, and bears will get after them every once in a while. But those beavers are smart, man. They make their lodge with an entrance underwater, so. If you're going to try and dig them out, good luck.
Intense, man. Intense. Well, we've had you for over an hour, dude, and we appreciate your time. And
thanks, guys.
Just talking and catching up, dude. It's I don't know. It's fascinating to me. I always dream about making it to Alaska, and I don't know. Now after talking to you, I think I want to stay home.
I've got these guys here in town right now. They're working on a real estate project that I'm working on, and I invited them to go fishing with me. And I told them, hey, we're going to leave around 4 a.m. It's going to be about 17 miles each way on an ATV. I'm going to carry the rifle with me. Here's the gear that you need to have. And after I explained everything, and it was what I perceive as a pretty generous offer to say, hey, hop in. I'll take care of everything. They're like, that sounds like a lot of work. I'm like, it is a lot of work. Yes. They're like, man, I'm gonna sleep in. I'm like, okay, no worries.
17 miles on an ATV and then go fishing? Like, are you fishing a river, or are you going like out in a boat after the 17 miles?
Yeah, river. So I'd take the boat out, but we've got 10-foot seas this weekend. And so the ATV's like it's the fail safe when the weather's no bueno for the boat. Who cares if it's blowing in an ATV, right? So let's do it.
That's rad. I'll do it. I'll do it.
Hey, when you guys are ready, just holler. I mean, there's plenty of fish. You're not going to fish out my holes. I can tell you that.
I know. It's like, because I know last time you're like, come on out. And I'm like, man, I so want to.
Yeah.
It's like,
is there an airport in Kodiak?
Yeah. Alaska
or is
Airlines,
it like small
baby.
plane?
No, Alaska Airlines. Take the big plane. You got to stop over in Anchorage, but it's flight time. It's freaking 35 minutes from Anchorage to Kodiak because you're just flying over that channel you were talking about.
Yeah, that ain't bad at all.
Nah. No, it's not too bad. But yeah, it's definitely, even the fishing, you want to be, at least in decent shape for whatever weather throws at you. That's the curveball, right? You plan your trips to not have expensive airfare months ahead, right? Because if you buy last minute, good luck, it's going to be expensive. So you have no idea what the weather's going to do. So, I just have the ATV, have the boat ready, and whatever weather gives, that's what you go for. So yeah,
bring everything. That's that.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine. You'd like be in the garage, just crates.
Yeah, I mean it's a constant conversation that we have, because for me to be safely geared up, I basically have a full garage dedicated to hunting and fishing, and I don't feel like it's overkill, because in any given season I'm going to have to use the gear that I have, but I don't use it every weekend. I don't even use it every month, because I have some gear subsets, right, that are dedicated to a specific thing. So to an outsider, it's like, dude, you're a gear junkie, and I'm like, I want to be safe, so I don't know. There might be a happy medium, but guys that really know how to get after it, you pretty much have to have your own garage or basement, and that's how it is.
Yeah, I know. I get made fun of because like, why do you got 3 pairs of 17-inch boots? I'm like, well, these are not insulated. These are for the warmer weather. These are insulated, and these are just for like getting muddy.
Completely logical.
I mean, it makes sense to me. I don't know why.
You can get
Yep.
round trip for $940 from Chicago.
Yeah.
That's not horrible.
The
No, I
Chicago
thought
to
it was
Anchorage
more.
flight's direct as well. There's a direct from Chicago to Anchorage.
Yeah, it goes Chicago to Anchorage, Anchorage to Kodiak, and then coming back, it was Kodiak to Anchorage, Anchorage to Seattle, Seattle to Chicago. That ain't bad
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
I'm on my way.
Yeah, we've got a look up Dolly Varden if you like catching.
Oh,
pretty
I know what
fish.
that is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we're the dollies here. It's unbelievable dolly fishing, and it's funny because at this point in my life, I mean I like catching the big halibut, right? I like catching
Sure.
big salmon, second to big halibut, and so dollies are further down on the list. But come October, the dollies get colored up with this bright orange belly and like a neon green top. They're gorgeous fish, and we get 3, 4, 5, 6 pound dollies. They're pretty cool up here. But
Yeah,
it's just fun. It's funny to me now because it's a total like afterthought fish. Whereas 10 years ago, I'd have thought, oh man, you got to catch a colored up dolly. That's so sweet.
Why do they call them Dolly Vardens?
A lot of animals in Alaska got named after people who did stuff. So I'm sure that's what it is. I couldn't tell you. I could Google it real quick and pull it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just call
I
them
got it right
dollies
here.
Because I was on the line of like, well, Dolly Parton. I'm like, like, I mean, I don't know. It's.
I think Dolly Varden preceded Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
They
was like, I
almost
don't
look
think-
like a cross between a brook and a steelhead. When the steelhead are coming in and like
Yeah,
spawn
that's
and they
apropos.
get that dark red belly almost.
So dollies are a char, so they're the same as brooks in
Yep.
terms of in the char family. But yeah,
Interesting.
I almost would have thought salmon.
it's not giving you how they got their name though. Let's see if I can find it.
They can attain a much larger size, up to 27 pounds.
Yeah. When they go sea run, they get big
Yeah.
because they they get their nutrients from the sea.
Yeah. Interesting. Life history. Let's see if it says.
This is their learning time right now.
Right.
So
You
everyone
know.
listening on the podcast, there are a bunch
All right.
of words on the screen, and Brian's reading.
From this is from Fish and Game in Alaska. The name Dolly Varden refers to a colorful cloth of pink pattern of good looks that was milled for dressmaking in the late 19th century. The cloth itself was named after Dolly Varden, the character who wore brightly colored dresses in Charles Dickens' 1841 novel Barnaby Rudge.
Oh,
There
that's
you go,
right.
Jay.
That's quite the freaking fish, right? Barnaby
Yeah.
Rudge to a fish in Alaska, but there you go.
Wow.
But yeah, it's always some gal, right? Like some dude's like, yeah, that looks like Dolly.
Wait,
the name.
did that thing just say rodents as
Yeah.
a diet?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean we fish
Yeah.
for them with mice. So
Yeah.
on your 7 weight on your 8
What?
weight, put a mouse
Yep.
pattern. It's fun.
What?
Insects, crustaceans, various fish species, and eggs and rodents.
Dude, are you sure there's not like dinosaurs running around where you're at? Jesus.
No, there's
Jay, these are the afterthought fish. These are the little fish.
there was a short film in the fly fishing film tour one year, and it was all about fishing trout with a mouse pattern. And
Yeah.
I think it was somewhere in Europe, maybe, where like, mice are just so prevalent, and these trout were getting huge, just feeding off of mice swimming through the water.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking. Like, what are mice doing in water? I
They'll
mean,
swim.
So here, all right. So the dolly mousing time, it's like these two phenomenons. They've been chasing salmon, eating salmon eggs all salmon season, right? And the last run of salmon is your coho salmon, your silver salmon. And right about the time that coho salmon are done, and so their eggs are diminished, right? The mice start flooding down from the mountains
to eat
because
on the
winter's come.
carcasses.
And now, no, they're just leaving the cold, right? They're getting away from the cold, and they're coming down to lower elevations. So they're crossing streams and rivers as they're coming down from lower elevations. So your rainbow trout and your Dolly Vardens, your cutthroat trout, all of them are like, oh, freaking mice! This is great. The salmon don't eat them because Yeah, salmon are shut down when they're in the river. They're only thinking is sex and death. That's it.
Yeah, right.
The trout and the char, they're year round. They're still going. So yeah, I mean, it's right about the time salmon eggs are done. The rodents are getting the heck away from winter and trying to find someone's nice cabin to go hole up in.
Does
That's
that,
interesting.
if they're foraging on more mice than anything, does that change the way their meat tastes?
You know, I don't know that I've ever eaten a char or a trout that I could say was exclusively eating mice. I don't know that there are any that exclusively eat mice. I think when the mice are crossing rivers and streams up here, it's such a short window of time when there's a flood of them that I don't know that it impacts flesh. But it does tell you that it's, you know, it's a good, aggressive, healthy char or trout when it hits your mouse pattern. So
Brian, that sounds like fun.
Them. Yeah, man, skating on the surface, it's all visual, right? So you're skating your mouse, and then freaking Ariel comes up for it. It's fun.
Well, I just joke around with him because, you know, when we're sitting in the CRP, you know, I don't know what it is about mice and Brian, but they really like to jump on them.
Oh yeah,
Brian, it's funny because it's funny seeing you giants like just jump. He's so
it surprises you. It's unexpected, you know, like you're not expecting a mouse to jump on you, but
it's so funny because we're sitting there quiet, like, oh my god.
Yeah. No, I've seen a lot of film and read some articles on like catching trout on mouse patterns, and it's pretty cool. I've never done it personally. It's something I've always wanted to do because that's just, I mean, like you said, it's like a topwater frog blow up for bass almost.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they got those rats and stuff too, right? For bass.
Yeah.
So I mean, I assume, you know, it's just stuff you just don't think about. I guess, you know, you're always when you see a mouse, it's on land, you know, or it's in your garage and you don't want it in there. You know, it's something.
Yeah.
You know, so that's I just don't think about them in water, but it makes sense. I mean, it would have to, I guess. You know, they don't get to pick where they live, so they gotta deal with whatever's around.
Right. Right on, man. Right on. Well, Josiah, let people know where they could follow you, watch what you're doing, social medias, all that stuff. Anything you want to plug, man, it's all yours.
Yeah, you know, so at Jackson Adventures, we've just made a big change with our lineup of coolers, the Orion coolers, and the price points come way down. And for the first time, you can order them direct, straight to you. So my same solution for getting a cooler that the bear's not going to tear up is your solution for keeping your fish and your game cold. I'm going to give that 85 a go for trying to put quartered meat in there and keep it safe. So check them out. You know, everything that I've experienced, I've used a lot of Yetis, and I've been using the Orions, and they're comparable in terms of their performance. And I've not yet had a bear tear up my Orion. So my Igloo cooler, as Brian said, God rest in pieces. It's time for me to upgrade to the Orion 85s on these trips. So check them out. Wearing the shirt here, bending branches, some sweet paddles. Man, I use them in Alaska. If you ever have an issue when you're on your big boat, good to have a bending branches paddle to be able to get into shore, push off the rocks, and definitely when you're in the kayaks and canoes. They've been using these Advanced Elements kayaks as just backups, inflatables in my boat. If I ever need to pump one up real quick and I need something that I can store away, they're sweet. So if you're looking for an inflatable, check out Advanced Elements. For me, a lot of times it's a great safety tool out where I'm at, but they're a fun time paddling too. You can backpack them up a river if you want to, so you don't have to hike back down. You can cruise down on the kayak. Check out these coolers, guys. It's a pretty sweet opportunity to get a top of the line cooler at a much better price point and have it shipped direct to your door. Me up here in Kodiak, that's what I've got to do, man. I'm sick and tired of having to go to Seattle to pick up my gear. So
no, I got an older version, a 65, and that thing works great, man. It's always been a solid cooler for me, and it always holds ice, things like that, man. It's I haven't put it to the bear test that I know of, at least, but it's a good cooler, man. Good cooler.
Yeah.
For sure. Right on,
Sweet.
man. I appreciate you joining us tonight and just sharing some of your knowledge and stories. And man, congrats on the big move to Kodiak. I'm sure that's it's a whole different world being there compared to Juneau, you know?
Yeah, man, it's a blast. 80s movie, man, Joe versus the volcano, and Meg Ryan looks at Tom Hanks and says, well, where are we going to go? And he says, away from the things of man. I tell you what, man, it's good for the soul sometimes to get out and get away, and this is a place for it.
I can imagine. Yeah, just the absolute beauty. I mean, we started off with that picture of you on top of that mountain watching that sunset. I could only imagine what it was like to be there in person.
Yeah, my back was hurting, brother. I had a buck on me, but the views are worth it. I finished quartering that guy out at 2:30 a.m. and we started getting back towards the summit and realized it was too stinking dark. So we just holed up and just kind of huddled up. It was freaking cold. And but then we both looked at each other and were like, well, the only way you're getting this view is if you slept on top of a mountain because your back was too loaded and you didn't want to take the wrong step and fall down, right? So
Sure. Wow. Right on, dude. Well, good luck and be safe. Stay away from bears unless you're trying to eat them.
Right.
Catch plenty of fish.
Don't be bait.
Yeah, don't be bait. don't get eaten by one of those giant fish with teeth.
Leave the peanut butter at home.
It's so good though. I almost always have peanut butter in my pack.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I'm sure that leaves a nice scent.
Yeah, right. Why are there bears following me down the mountain?
Right. I haven't even fired a shot yet. Why are they trailing me? What the heck? Yep.
Right on, man. Well, we appreciate you, dude. Anytime you want to come back, hit us up, dude. We always love catching up with you, man, and hearing all the stories and adventures that you've been on. Appreciate you very much. Guys, gals, listening, watching, we appreciate you as well. We're here every Thursday, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, 5 o'clock out on the West Coast. We will see you boys and girls next week. Jay Randall. See ya.
Thanks, Josiah. Thanks for coming on, man. It's been a long
likewise.
time.
And man, your guys' show has blown up since even the last time that I was on. So congrats to you guys. You're a mainstay in the kayak fishing world.
We're growing, man. We're growing. We're getting bigger. It's good. It's all good things, man. We're all doing good things. I'm just not as cool and extravagant as you. So let me go back to my
I know we're like
little pathetic life in the Midwest.
I know. I don't even know. Like, I don't really have much to complain about anymore. I know that.
All right, guys. We will see you next week. As always, tight lines, smooth paddling. Peace. Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode here on Paddle and Fin. Be sure to drop a 5-star rating, a thumbs up, or smash that subscribe button on any platform you're listening in on. Be sure to check us out on Waypoint TV, waypointtv.com. Make sure you sign up for the Fantasy Kayak Fishing League at paddleandfin.com/fantasy. You can support this show through Patreon, patreon.com/paddleandfin. Don't forget to check out the website, paddleandfin.com. Catch us on YouTube. If you got a question, comment, or want to see a future guest on the show, be sure to email us at paddleandfin@gmail.com. Shout out to our show supporters, Yak Gadget. You can check out all the fine kayak accessories at yakgadget.com. Pelican Professional. For all your cases, coolers, and lighting needs, go to pelican.com. Rocktown Adventures, your Midwest premier paddle sports destination. Go to rocktownadventures.com. Eastport Marina, the beautiful destination on Dale Hollow Lake. If you're looking for lodging, kayaks, kayak accessories, or anything fishing related on the beautiful Dale Hollow Lake, go to eastport.info. And Jigmasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com and fill your tackle boxes today.